Hi everyone, my name is Aneta. I'm an artist and illustrator. Welcome back to my channel. I'm back with my mini-series where I try to paint like artists from the 19th century. If you're new to my channel, I've already done 2 episodes, so feel free to check those out if you're interested. For those of you following this series, here's another one. Although I should mention that I also have some original projects in the works that need my attention, so this series won't be a continuous one. I'm an artist who makes YouTube videos, not a YouTuber who makes art, so I hope you don't mind that it's not super regular. Anyway, here we are. Today's focus is the amazing art of Kay Nielsen. So just briefly, he was a Danish illustrator born in 1886 and part of the golden age of illustration. He studied in Paris and later in London, and his work is best known for its dreamy, stylized look, influenced by Art Nouveau and Japanese woodcuts, among many. In front of me, I have the beautiful Taschen edition of East of the Sun and West of the Moon. This is the Italian translation. Before I start painting, I like to take a look and loosely analyze his style based on my own preferences. Now, I've realized that painting like someone else is not as easy as it might seem at first. When I started this series, I was determined to almost reproduce someone else's style, but I found out that's actually impossible. You might love another artist's work, but the moment you try to replicate it, you may realize you don't actually agree with many of the artistic choices they make. Even if you appreciate their work, it might not align with who you are, and maybe that's the beauty of art. That's why it's so important to follow your own taste instead of pretending to be someone you're not. Right from the start, thanks to some close-ups in the first few pages, I can tell you he used ink, watercolors for sure, and colored pencils. I'm positive because of the texture you can see. There's also an amazing number of details and patterns. You can definitely see some inspiration from Japanese art too, which was very common back then. This one illustration feels super modern, almost Art Deco. Well, the date says 1912, so it's a tiny bit early, but still definitely ahead of its time. I wouldn't say I love it, but I know some contemporary artists have translated this type of stylized face drawing into today's standards. Not really my cup of tea, but I appreciate it. This scene is so busy. You can still sense a strong compositional choices, mainly thanks to the use of empty space. You can also spot arrows leading the viewer's eye to the subject and the story. And you know what? There's this tiny detail I absolutely adore. There's a knight wearing a pink shirt with a tulip pattern. I love that idea so much. I tend to be too serious with my choices, but I'm trying, or at least thinking of trying to loosen up a bit. A knight's armor doesn't have to be serious. The sky isn't always blue and the trees don't have to be green. You know what I mean? Again, there's a strong need for texture. These parts almost look like oil pastels. The lines are very simplified. And I really want to understand why in Kay Nielsen's world people wear medieval braziers on their heads. I just don't get that. This is the same Kay Nielsen who worked on Fantasia 1940. I had the VHS tape and I loved Fantasia so much. Being a goth at heart, I especially remember that sequence with the Last Judgment. I think that was my first horror movie ever. Shame on you, Disney, for not keeping Kay Nielsen on board for future projects. Oh, this is beautiful. This is incredible in terms of composition. I could totally imagine making a piece inspired by this, not necessarily in Kay Nielsen exact style, but using similar compositional ideas. If in the future you see something from me that reminds you of this scene, well, now you know the origin. It inspires me so much. And more than anything, I love the idea of those beams. Okay, I think I've chosen my piece for today's illustration. I was torn between this one and the one with the castle and the beams, but I think I care more about that one in terms of adapting its composition for a future project. So for today's work, I'll use this one. I really love how the architectural element frames the whole scene. The background sparks my curiosity, like, what's back there? What do they actually see from the balcony? And I love, beyond love, the shape of that tree. I almost want to steal the concept. It's so flowy and expressive, and I adore it. Alright, that's it for the inspiration. Let's move on to the actual painting. I had to imagine the whole story from scratch. I started with the idea of a traveler who finds a witch living in a wooden house with this kind of loggia that opens to the outside where she can observe the sky. The traveler brings her a book, saying it's rare. She looks at him and says, "That's the wrong book. I have the right one." It's a bit of a bureaucratic scene, but at least she has the solution and decides to help him. Following Kay Nielsen's reference image, I wanted to include some storytelling elements in those 4 little windows at the top. These represent the witch's prophecy. She tells the traveler that 4 stars need to align in those windows to make the prophecy come true, but right now there's only 1. I also thought about adding a small blue bird in one of the windows, but I didn't focus on the detail. I made it barely visible, so it leaves the question, is it just a random bird, or does its presence in the window mean something? Then I added tapestry. I wasn't as detailed as Kay Nielsen would have been. I held back because the scene already felt packed, but I still wanted to add that layer of story. As for materials, I used my Roman Szmal palette. For the sky, I picked Przybysz Grey. Yeah, I know it's the hardest name to pronounce in the whole Roman Szmal range, but it gave me that moody, almost mystical feel of the night sky. For the architecture, I considered creating a stone effect, but I realized the image would feel too cold, so I warmed it up using some brown tones of acrylic gouache. Acrylic gouache gives a very uniform look, but keeps the opacity, unlike regular acrylics. So when I mix it with watercolors, I don't get that weird contrast between shine and matte surfaces. To add a bit of magic, I painted some sparks on the witch's dress using shimmery watercolors, and for the final touches and details I used my Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils, just to echo something Kay Nielsen might have chosen in his own work. I hope you enjoyed the process and the idea. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Take care.